is Kayla Straight. I am from Back Mountain Harvest Assemblies of God. I am in 11th grade, and today I am going to be preaching to you from Matthew chapter 14. The version I used was NIV. So a fun fact about myself is I was born in Pennsylvania, but I grew up in Illinois. And growing up in Illinois, one thing that I learned very quickly was a severe thunderstorm warning means a lot more out there than it does up here in Pennsylvania. Out there, anytime that there was a severe thunderstorm warning, it pretty much meant that there was going to be a tornado somewhere, whether it be in the city or in some random cornfield that I had no clue where it was. But we had to be prepared. So growing up as a child, I had to be used to going to seek shelter at any given point. When I was home, me and my parents, we'd go to the staircase to our basement. We'd grab whatever we could find. My mom would sit with the radio playing on her phone, and I would lay on the stairs next to her, physically shaking in fear, because that is not a fun thing to go through as a child. But that happened, and we had to do that and to get used to that. Meanwhile, my father would go upstairs and collect anything that maybe we didn't have time to grab, or just check the conditions of the weather. Now, he did this to comfort us, but honestly, it terrified me as a child. I've always been somewhat of an anxious person, so I thought the second that he went upstairs, the house was going to collapse and he would be down with it. I thank God that never happened and that we never had significant damage to our house. But now that I live out here in Pennsylvania, I enjoy not having to worry about that as much. So in Matthew chapter 14, we read, "Immediately after this, Jesus insisted that his disciples get back to the boat and cross the river or cross to the other side of the lake, while he sent the people home. After sending them home, he went up into the hills by himself to pray. Night fell while he was there alone. Meanwhile, the disciples were in trouble far away from land, for a strong wind had risen and they were fighting heavy waves." Storms are challenging and at times life-shattering. Sometimes it may seem like life is just storm after storm rolling in. Jesus had sent the disciples home after a long day of serving, so they probably weren't expecting there to be this massive storm to stop them on the way, as Jesus had just sent them. They were tired and probably just wanted to get rest, and the storm rolled in and caught them off guard. It was soon revealed that they were not equipped to handle the situation on their own. In our lives, storms may come in and we won't expect them, but we have to understand that we can only thrive through these storms with God. We have to work on our relationships with God, so when these storms come in our lives, we can make it through, and not only make it through, but thrive with Him. We have to keep pushing and growing in our relationship with God. Fear is the natural response. It is in our human nature, but we need to break out of the natural and walk in faith. Sometimes, when we have been fighting, we may begin to doubt and lose faith. We see back in Matthew chapter 14, about 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came toward them walking on water. When the disciples saw him walking on water, they were terrified. In their fear, they cried out, "It's a ghost!" But Jesus spoke to them at once. "Don't be afraid," he said. "Take courage, I am here." When Jesus came, they were so caught up in their fear, they were more likely to believe Jesus to be a ghost than to be Jesus, the one who they have been following and had given their lives to. They thought that he was a ghost because of this storm. We may start to get used to cloudy days and the fog cast over our lives. The problem is that as humans, we are prone to become complacent and almost comfortable with what we are used to. One of the biggest mistakes I myself have made is identifying with my struggle. No matter what you are going through, whether it be a mental health struggle such as anxiety or depression, it could be something that happened to you or something that you're currently going through, we start to find our identity in this when we get used to it. And through that, we completely lose track of our true identity as children of God. We might find comfort in a label that seems to describe who we are in an earthly sense that isn't how we are described by God. And that is what we begin to expect of ourselves and limit ourselves to as we accept this title that holds us back. If you stay in the boat, you will continue to be blinded and distracted by the storm around you. Nothing can change unless you try to move forward. And that could seem difficult, but this step of faith can simply be to give your situation to God, to pray, to work on that relationship. In those hard times, we have to do this, and we have to keep our focus on the Lord. And as we do so, He will guide us as the waves crash around us. This is spiritual warfare. And we have to step up and fight, not just become stagnant in these troubled waters. As Peter physically stepped closer to Jesus, we must spiritually step closer to him. Don't settle for the struggle when God has far greater in store for you and your life. You can't sit around and wait for things to be fixed for you. Not that God can't fix things, but you have to work for your relationship with him and strive to live a life to glorify God in all circumstances. Looking away from Jesus and focusing on the storm causes you to drown further in it. When you make that first step, if you aren't fixated on God, you could begin to drown, just like Peter did. You have to stay focused on him. There's so many distractions in this world trying to steal our focus on him. And that is when we get attacked, when we let ourselves lose our focus, when we let ourselves fixate on something that isn't God. Look to him, and he will help carry you the rest of the way. God isn't done with you and has a plan for your life. You just have to trust him. God uses those storms to bring you closer to him, and in that process, you have to give these things to God that bonds you even closer to him. He gets you out of your mind and says, "Take courage, I am here." Matthew 14:27. Thank you.
Amen.